This is the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast.
So, I think we're feeling very nostalgic because this is in some ways a very nostalgic chapter. This takes me back, right? Matt, did you like that segue? I thought that was pretty good. That was good. Yeah. This chapter really is about Matt going back to his roots with the band in an inn in a town where something bad happens and he has to react, and it's kind of silly. But like, I feel like this is really an effort to be like, this is how Matt should be written. And the dialogue is awful. The dialogue is so bad.
I love the Hinderstap plot, but I need them to shut up. just have the plot. Just do the action stuff and stop having commentary.
Right. It's very Wayne. If you're familiar with the Wax and Wayne series by Brandon Sanderson, this is the dialogue here is one of the reasons why I think that, he was essentially writing that character in this place, and that character exists in his head as someone who thinks they're funny and just isn't that funny. But still cracks themselves up.
Which, that is half of comedies. Just you should be laughing at your own jokes,
Totally.
So,
but Jordan always wrote more situational comedy, where the character found themselves in a situation that they, made them a hypocrite, right?
It's a very different approach. It's so obvious this is being written under a different hand, and yet, to your point about the nostalgia, the horror of this scene does feel very true to the roots of the horror that has always been here in this series.
Exactly. Yeah. No, when we talk about early Eye of the World, there's a lot of horror in early Eye of the World. Mm-hmm. And even in, the torture in The Great Hunt, right? There's some body horror in there. There's some pain horror. There's just a lot of stuff going on in those early books that feels more horror. And then I feel like later we get a little more political and a little more power scaly and a little more, what can we do with the magic system and, how do we take over the world, right? But in the beginning, it's more you got cool bubbles of evil with the reflections and all that kind of stuff, right? So
yeah, no, this is where everything is. It's bendy, right? It's not just a war sequence or a straight ahead duel. It's like the rules of reality themselves are bending and you don't know what's coming next. It feels like the introduction of Murdral or intelligent ravens that are hunting people down, right? It feels like the first time that Darkhounds show up. It's like, what are zombies doing here? We haven't had
right.
zombies before.
Dark One zombies? Oh no, right? Yeah, no, and that's because we've neutralized all the Trollocs are really, who's been too scared of a Trolloc, right? They're just foot soldiers to be cut down by regular soldiers.
I remember when I was first handed the Eye of the World by the boy I had a crush on, my friend. And he was like, yeah, so the Trollocs and the Murdral are really, really scary, but in a couple of books, Rand can just kill them all, so it's fine. And it's yeah, they are so not scary by now. They're so not scary by now.
And it's oh no, the Ravens are going to report on the giant armies moving around that have tons of spies in them. Who cares, right? There's no threat anymore. Which is just, it's kind of silly. So this it's nice that they kind of had the Golem still a threat, right? There's still the Forsaken are still a threat. There's some bigger threats out there. Although I'd argue about the Forsaken. They're kind of barely a threat.
But they're ranked highly by the characters, so.
Right.
But yeah, exactly. It's oh yeah, we know everything that the Dark One can throw at us. There's been multiple bugs erupting out of people. Okay, all right, we know what's coming. Wait, zombies? We haven't had zombies. Zombies are new. And yet the horror feels consistent from 15 years ago with Jordan writing it.
And of course, I love the twist at the end where he takes the zombies and throws them at the bad guys and goes which is always a cool, always a cool moment, even in zombie movies, when you open up the gate and the bad guy realizes, oh shit, I'm surrounded by the zombies I created or whatever,
Yeah, zombie revenge is good.
Zombie revenge is good.
I really, really liked how the Hinderstap plot actually did get looped back in because it's very self-contained. I kind of thought it was going to be just a short story that he inserted into the world and that was it. But to have him actually bring back his own creation, Sanderson bring back his own creation for a last battle maneuver. I was very, very satisfied by that.
It was a good, self-referential moment where he sort of calls back to the beginning, and like it's like a good set on stage, right? You always want to do a callback, right?
Yeah,
at the
exactly.
end.
Exactly. It was super, super satisfying. And, there's also like this element of absurdism and Groundhog Day-ness to it too, right? Of just like, yes, there's the horror of the fight, but there's also just the weird existential absurdism of like, you're not living the same day every day, right? You're living a new day every day. So it's not Groundhog Day like that, but also you can't leave by any means, And that is like, it's not funny, but it is existentially creepy in a very different way than the straight ahead zombie attack, right? There's layers here. It's a complex horror.
It's a roach motel, right? You can check in, but you can never leave.
Yeah.
Welcome to Hotel California, right? Like, yeah, it's absolutely those places that it really is a one-way trap, soul trap, right? Like your soul can get stuck there, and then it sort of just keeps. It's like a record that's skipping.
Yeah, it's a yellow jacket trap.
Yeah,
people.
Totally.
But yeah, no, it is being stuck on a loop, and that's. Loops are one of the more horrifying things you can play with when it comes to wibbly wobbly timey wimey. Like loops are creepy. Like creepy in a good way. I don't generally go in for like horror, like body horror stuff, but I do like existential creepy. So loops are cool. I do like loops, but creepy.
I miss the days when TV shows always had at least one episode that got stuck in a Groundhog Day loop, right? Like
every TV show needs a weird looping episode. That's just yeah. They're so good. They're so weird. And then you break it because it would get boring after a while narratively, and you move on. Next episode.
But what I like about it is that it creates this framework that then you can make changes within that framework, right? And then, it's exciting to see how the day evolves. It's sort of, you get to play that what if game with your whole day.
Right. Except these people don't, because they are living new days with progressively more damaged clothes and a town and more creeping exhaustion. And like, they're actually not living in a loop with the exception of what happens at night. And that is a twist.
So what would you do? How would you live your life? I feel like I would be like, all right, everybody, we're going to the town square before dark and taking off all our clothes.
I know, right?
And then everybody just gets to kill each other in the town square. Nothing gets damaged. You all wake up in your beds, and it's fine. And then you just like go, if you show up,
you'd have literal memories of seeing all your neighbors naked.
Hey, I live on the naked bike ride area. You think I haven't?
That is an extremely Portland thing. I don't think the people of Hinderstap are quite that liberal and progressive. They seem a little more conservative.
Come on, the naked wagon ride. Everyone gets behind their horses and just goes in. Okay, never mind.
Yeah, no. I don't. No. Oh, apparently there is also something similar in Seattle, the Fremont Solstice Parade. Well, that's not surprising to me, fellow West Coastie. Do you want to get into this book?
Yeah, I guess we should actually read it. I mean, I feel like because I feel like everybody kind of knows what Hinderstap is because it's such a memorable moment that gets talked about so much that we're like, oh yeah, Hinderstap. So we're going to try and do both Hinderstap chapters. There's 2 of them. They're both pretty long. So let's dig into it.
We're starting with chapter 27, the Tipsy Gelding with the Dice.
Matt didn't escape the camp without the Aes Sedai, of course. Bloody women. He rode down the ancient stone roadway, no longer followed by the band. He was, however, accompanied by the 3 Aes Sedai, 2 warders, 5 soldiers, Talmanis, a pack animal, and Tom. At least Eludra, Amathera, and Eginin hadn't insisted on coming. The group was too big as it was. The 3 needled pines guarded the road. smelled the pine sap, and the air was melodramatic with the mountain finch's calls. It was still several hours until sundown. He'd halted the band near noon. He rode slightly ahead of the clustered Aes Sedai and warders. After he'd refused Jolene horses and funds, they hadn't been about to let him win another point. Not when they could force him to take them down to the village, where they could spend at least one night in an inn with soft beds and warm baths. Don't think that's gonna happen.
I mean, they're gonna start to happen.
And by the way, can you guess how many people total are coming down in the group?
13.
13.
Yeah, because I was like, I know there's 5 red arms and there's a bunch of other people, so the only logical number is 13. There's no other numbers it would be.
I was counting them up and I was like, up to 13. Yep, that's 13, including Matt.
Huh, that's funny. So it's okay when our guys do it, but not when they do it.
I don't know if it's on purpose or if it was just a coincidence, but I feel like the 5 red arms was really there just to, round it out to 13. I mean,
it could have been any number, any small number of red arms would have worked. You could have done 7 or 3, like any number would have worked. All right, so yeah, they go on down there, and Matt is clinging to the idea that he can have everything the way it was so hard.
Oh no, like the old coat?
All throughout this whole thing. Yeah, he's like, I've got the old coat. I'm going to go dicing. I'm going to, everything's going to go back to the way it was, right? It's this quest that so many of us humans have is like, I'm going to go back to the way things were. Just as soon as this week calms down, I'm going to go back to the way things were, right? Like, this is a trap so many people fall into, to say nothing of certain political movements throughout time.
Or Perrin right now. Jesus.
Oh my God. Or Perrin. Yeah, absolutely. So Matt is really making a big deal about how he's doing this. And it just makes the irony of, and now there's zombies, all the more sweet. I don't need to feel like we need to go through all the dialogue, but I just think it's funny how much she's like, things are going to stay the same. And then we get zombies for the first time in the series. Like,
Tom pulls out the letter and they talk a little bit about how they're going to go save Moraine, and that's like on the list of things to do, right? But they're not quite ready yet. Sort of how that dialogue is between as they were riding down into the town.
He wonders how Rand will react to Moraine coming back, and I kind of wish that Rand reacted more dramatically than he did.
Yes.
I mean, he's very happy to see her and he's nice to her, but something a little more earth-shattering than a hug would have been cool.
Right. That, honestly, I think it would have been as much as I do love using Tam to have him have his veins of gold moment, I think having Moraine coming back would have been a more effective story-wise because she's the head of the list.
Literally.
And so if he can break the list and be like, oh, I maybe I'm mourning people who can come back. Maybe I'm mourning people who can live again and have these lives. And like,
oh my God. Yes. The fact that she was the head of the list, that hug should have counted the same as Tam's, right? Like, right. Magic Mom is the same as adopted dad when it comes to like healing a really, really deep, crucial trauma in his psyche. Like, oh my God. Yeah. And
seeing them together, I think that would have actually been good. Like maybe confronting them together and being like kind of adopted dad and adopted mom, right? Because real dad and real mom are dead.
Oh my God. And then Tam and Moraine are like, who are you? Oh, right. Yeah. We met at a bar once. That makes sense.
No, I mean, gosh, we'll have to go back through this podcast and talk about all the ways we would rewrite these books because we've got Matt's plot totally rewritten already. We've got, certainly the rescue of Moraine leading to totally different things, but a lot of it would be the same. Like we wouldn't rewrite it, but like just like a few different cause and effects, a few different outcomes. And I think, I'm not saying I could improve it, but it'd be more in line with my headcanon.
That's the beauty of headcanon.
Yep.
The other thing he thinks about in this whole going to rescue Moraine plot is Lanfear going to be in there or not?
Right.
He's like, shit,
right.
Lanfear might actually be in there, huh? Which, like, we know that she's not.
That's a good point, yeah. Right? Because if Moraine survived, going through, then it's entirely possible Lanfear did. And if Moraine can't get back, it's entirely possible Lanfear couldn't get back. And like, yeah, there's no reason to think that he's not going in there to face a Forsaken.
Do you think he would have rescued her as well if she had tried to make herself part of the party somehow. Moraine's not even conscious for the whole rescue, so I don't know how that would work. But just imagine that somehow Lanfear was there and was like, "No, please get me out of here." How do you think Matt would react? You think he'd take her?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
If he got some sort of oath or secured her, put like the medallion around her neck that keeps her from channeling type situation, right? Like, but yeah, I think he would have to. Honestly, like his character would not leave her behind. Yeah.
Yeah, Matt's code would, yeah. And of course, we as the audience know that she's not there to be rescued.
Right.
Because we've seen Sindane and she's old news at this point. The whole Sindane situation is old news.
Which is something else I wish I'd seen more consequences for. Like, Lanfear's out and doing stuff again. That seems like it's going to be so well. And then I guess there is quite a bit in the last book with Perrin and Lanfear.
Yeah, I think that the idea was to try to make Moradin's plot interesting by having him like controlling the other Forsaken more directly, but I don't think it worked.
Yeah, fair.
I don't think it works. And then deploying her at Rand in the last battle in the dream with Perrin in the way. I mean, that worked. It made her interesting. It made Perrin feel a little bit at loose ends sometimes, plot wise, but like it made sense for her to have that role to play. But anyway, she's not trapped in there, so Matt doesn't have to worry about it. It's another one of those Brandon Sanderson. Oh, look, Brandon Sanderson has a character being kind of wrong. Because he's wondering if Lanfear's in there, and we know she's not.
Oh, hey, good job.
It's almost making the character, because he's just wondering. He's not asserting. Yeah. He's just wondering.
Right,
but it's almost having a character be wrong.
And then there's just a bunch of, these statements that are like talking about old times, right? You plan to try juggling for your supper again, apprentice? Better than trying to play that blasted flute. Rand was a friend, but Matt didn't mean to be there when Rand went insane and killed everyone he knew. All these things are just like, oh, okay. This is where I talk about, like, it feels like Sanderson is rewriting early Matt rather than advancing his character.
It's very early Great Hunt, Matt.
Yeah, and you can try and explain it like Matt's trying to get back to his roots. He's like kind of wants to go into a town and explore like the old, just do some dicing and have a really simple night. But it's like Matt's matured beyond that.
I mean, he's still got really, really stuck in the mud attitudes about channeling. We have seen him make very little progress on that throughout the books, so I guess. But yeah, it's hard for me to believe that they were ever friends, the way that he doesn't mourn Rand at all at this point. If he was going to return to that, like, book 2 thing, he should be kind of, like, thinking more along the lines of, like, I miss Rand, because now he's not there anymore. He's just this madman I have to avoid, instead of saying, oh, Rand is a friend, but, he's also insane. Like, are you friends, Matt? That doesn't feel friendly. I don't know. It's just, I don't believe that they were friends, the way that he doesn't miss Rand.
No, and they never really come back together as friends, right?
No, they have that one awful conversation that we're all memory holing, and, like, that's it.
And then Matt kind of ends up leading. Elaine comes to him and says, I need you to lead the armies. It's not even Rand who says it to him, right? So, yeah.
We've also got a timestamp saying that Rand lost his hand a few weeks ago, according to the visions that Matt is seeing. So just for purposes of tracking where the boys are with respect to each other, this is about 3 weeks after Semirog got captured and all that.
Which is, a couple weeks after Floorbeans, right? Like... How long was she in captivity, right, before Floorbeans?
Yeah, maybe a week, maybe not even a week. Yeah, I think she's probably dead within a Randland week between losing the hand and then the last that could be done. So yeah, at this point, Semirog is dead. Rand is like, and I mean, as Matt describes, Rand is like, looks nearly dead and is just totally gone. So he is deep in his Darthiness, or his beyond Darthiness that we still haven't classified a name for.
Sithness? I don't know. Before he was...
No, we got to switch franchises
Rand,
in order to create escalation.
Oh, okay. Switch... Yeah, I got nothing. Hold on.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, so then we get Tom telling us about this old song that's all esoteric and Wheel of Time weaves as it wills, because the area is super old and Matt has memories about the area. And it's just a cool, like, oh, this road was here before the breaking, literally. And just that, again, showing us that post-apocalyptic sort of world building, which is nice and pleasant. It's so hard for me to imagine that something like a road survived the breaking. You know, I think of it as just such a geologic cataclysm, but like, here's proof in the text. Like, no, there are weird pockets of things that are just still the way they were from before.
Yeah, or things that got picked up and moved wholesale without being broken, right? There's whole chunks that like got moved. And like, you know, I can imagine if you create some sort of gateway dome, you could somehow transport a whole area. You know, I don't know. Who knows what the crazy Aes Sedai of the Age of Legends could do with their gateways and stuff, right?
Right. Or like how solid stuff was built because it was reinforced with the power and thus could withstand the breaking, right? Maybe this road was like reinforced with the power. And so it was like, geology, earthquakes, whatever. It's fine.
Yeah, exactly. What's the stretch of I-5 doing in Antarctica, right? Like, it's just,
and
it's
why
crazy.
Is there a glacier in downtown Portland?
Right. The breaking did crazy things, and it was crazy magic things, right? That like,
yes,
I don't know, just and imagine you could do things like take off the pressure protections on a portal so that like, you know, I guess the same thing Androl did, but like do that with an ocean.
Right. Yeah, totally. So then we've got Matt and Tom sort of doing camaraderie, I guess. I don't hate it as much as Matt and Tom is talking, but I don't like it particularly. But yeah, Tom's basically like, I'm old and decrepit. And Matt's like, I need you desperately in order to make plot armor stay solid. And then, you know, the subsequent chapter proves that that is necessary, that Tom is part of Matt's plot armor. And so that's nice.
I mean, Tom's a very adept warrior who's astute and can throw knives very accurately. Like, and a throw knife in this world is, you know, instantly deadly. So that's cool.
Yeah, we love that. We love that.
Yeah.
There's some stuff about Oliver being convinced that he is going to help with the escape and that he's going to crack the code of playing snakes and foxes, which we know in a way he does, and he will, and he can.
The Taviraness, yeah. Like, he beats the game at the same time Matt beats the snakes and the foxes. And like, you want to argue that the horn like, I feel like there's some link between them because they've both blown the horn of Lear.
Yeah, there's something.
I guess at that point he hasn't, but like there's something there, right? That like,
time is a puddle.
Right.
And I mean, Oliver is growing up well within the halo of Matt's Taviraness, trying to emulate Matt, interacting with the people that Matt interacts with, being part of his world, striving to be part of Matt's thread. And like, then he's tied to the game as it happens, and then he blows the horn. Like, no, there's an echoing resonance between these two souls, for sure.
Yeah, it is interesting that that's not something that's really gotten into. Like, I feel like, I mean, I love that Oliver's purpose in the story is to be the horn blower, right? Because it always felt like wrong that Matt was the horn blower, right? Like, it always felt like something he did kind of early. Like, he was able to do it because of his luck and stuff, but it's like, he shouldn't be the horn blower for the last battle. That never made sense for him as his role. So I love that became Oliver, right? But like, I would have loved to see more, well, you know, future, I guess, Oliver.
Yeah,
stuff.
Well,
yeah.
So say we all. And also I want to point out, like, he's not Taviran for being Geidel Kane, because we know he's not Geidel Kane, but like, this is the kind of energy that makes one strive in a way that, you know, you could be a hero. Like, he's got that drive, and the pattern clearly is willing to tie him to Matt's battle in the tower. So he's got something.
I mean, the whole thing is like, he's got this quest to find the person who killed his father. So he's got drive to learn how to use all these weapons. He's with the Band of the Red Hand, which are the best fighters in the world by far in almost all the different weapons, because there's all these different nationalities. They've got Matt's luck, his best friend with multiple heroes of the horn, Brigida and Noel, and Matt, really, at this point, you know, like, because Matt's certainly a hero of something if he's not a hero of the horn. And he's just spent his whole life learning from these people. And getting himself in and out of crazy, dangerous situations. And it's like, okay, yeah, his story going forward is not going to be sitting at home being a, tinker, right?
No, he's not going to pull a Loyal and try to write a book about it. Like, he's going to go out there and be the adventurer. Obviously. He might write a book someday because he does look up to Jane Farstrider. But, like, that'll be when he's an old man and can't walk properly.
Okay, here's my theory. Oliver becomes Conan the Barbarian in all the books that Robert Jordan wrote for that series. And so you can read those books as Oliver going on to be an adventurer. This is Conan the Barbarian's renamed backstory. Conan the Barbarian. And this is the legend that faded into the myth of Conan the Barbarian.
I am so down for this.
And you just read those Robert Jordan books as the sequels. And just that weird... Because, like, there is a lot of similarities in the magic fantasy world of Conan, right? The Barbarian, like, there's like magic and there's people fighting with swords and, like, it's much rougher and it's much more misogynistic.
Dated. We'll call it dated.
Dated. We'll call it dated. It's much more dated. But I do feel like, anyway, we can keep going.
I've never actually read those books, but I'm fine with this headcanon anyhow.
They weren't his original world, right? But like...
Right. Yeah, he was writing in someone else's thing. He was not yet our Robert Jordan.
Having looked into it, it's universally agreed that Robert Jordan's Conan books are probably the best of the Conan books, which doesn't surprise me.
Well, that doesn't surprise me, yeah. How many people worked on this?
I want to say 3 or 4 at least, right? I feel like I feel like there was like the original creator and then Jordan and then like 1 or 2 more that came after him who also continued to write books as they, declined in quality. But I am known by I have to look that up. It's been a while. Someone, I was gifted the books and I wish I could remember which one of our wonderful listeners gifted me the Conan books, but I don't off the top of my head. So I got to read through them and kind of research their relevance to the series because I was like, I've never read them. I probably should with as much Robert Jordan as I am dedicated to reading.
What's a little Conan the Barbarian on the side?
Right. Well, and that also it happened around the time that Warrior of the Altai came out an item, right? And so I read through that, and you can really see Warrior of the Altai as being the bridge work between Conan the Barbarian and Wheel of Time. Right. And you can really see how reading that is something that sits squarely in between those two intellectual properties with pieces of both woven together. You can see how we got from Conan to Rand al'Thor.
Legends fade to myth.
Yeah, there really is there's a connective thread between the two of those. And then you basically take Conan and press all the legends, Arthurian legends on top of him and give him, a cast of characters that are from the Arthurian legend, and you have Camelin, and then you add on top of that,
Jesus,
a few other stories that you want to tell with the other boys from his village, and all of a sudden you have Wheel of Time.
I like it. All right, so back to Hinderstap. It's a sheep town. They export mutton and cheese, and so Matt's like, surely I can provision my army here. And they're like, if you have fabric, we will give you enough food for your party of 13. And Matt's like, that is not the bargain I was looking for. No. Also, why do you need fabric? You have a bunch of wool. You're sheep farmers. Confusing.
And he sees everyone has like stitched up, all their clothing's like stitched up
very
and like
neatly.
Repaired. Yeah, very neatly. As though someone's been stabbed or cut or torn multiple times. Like, this is why, like, I feel like I'd go to bed naked, right? Like, at least go to bed naked. Don't be wearing your clothes to bed, right? What the hell? Or don't like...
Right, like, it's clearly your clothes are destroyed. Even if you don't know what happened, your clothes are destroyed. You can make some logical leaps about what maybe you should be doing with your textiles after the sun goes down, or before the sun goes down, as it were.
I also wonder if anyone would ever just chain themselves up to their bed every night and just, like, to prevent themselves from tearing through the house and destroying things.
Right? Yeah, like you could just lie on the bed all night just doing the like endless struggle until things reset in the morning, and like, yeah, you wouldn't be damaged. You'd be fine.
I also always wonder in these situations, what if you like had a hangover on the morning you got reset? Would you always have that hangover?
Oh no, that'd be so cruel. That'd be awful.
Like, are you stuck? Because they're obviously resetting to some logical set point, but like, is that how they were that one morning, that one day, all those months ago?
Or did they get set back to some sort of factory standard?
Right.
Ugh.
There's so many experiments I'd want to do.
It's a bubble of evil, so I'm going to assume the bleakest outcome, which is that, yes, there is one guy who has a perpetual hangover this whole time.
like, oh, not again.
Right? Yeah.
I didn't even drink last night.
Exactly.
Well, you know he's at the bar drinking then, because he's like, well, if I'm going to have the hangover, I'm at least going to get drunk.
Hair of the dog is the only way to deal with that. All right. And then we start arguing about the curfew, because it's dumb and makes no economic sense. You know, like the whole thing about the inns are compensated. Well, they're compensated with not having an endless array of new people dying and getting shoved into their spare beds forever. That's how the inns are being compensated.
Also, people are living there, right? So I would assume that maybe there's just like a tax, and it's like, well, we're gonna all pay to keep the inn going, right?
Yeah, it's a weird apocalypse situation. We're just going to kind of pull together and take care of our neighbors because we don't know what the fuck else to do at this point. Because, yeah, it's happening to all of them. It's regular economic calculus is not in these people's heads at this point. Now they're just trying to survive until the dragon can, like, fix the world, you know?
And our group splits into three. It's Aes Sedai and a couple of soldiers and their warders go one direction. Tom goes off on his own, and then Matt and Telmamanus and one or two other soldiers?
Two other soldiers.
Two other soldiers come with him. So it's 4, 1, and it leaves like 8.
Yeah. Pants, we don't know, but I'm pretty sure they're...
My headcanon, right? So they come back on the morning of the final battle, right? And they go through that second fight. And I think anyone who dies, right, that day the Dark One's encapsulated and the world goes back to normal. So the bubble of evil ends. So if they don't have a chance to come back to life after the last battle. So if they die in the last battle, I think they're dead, right? That second time.
Yes, I would agree. Any of them that don't make it through the battle stay dead. And then everyone who does make it through the battle gets a weird second lease on life because reasons. Or they all drop dead, either way.
I'm assuming that they're alive at that moment, and they essentially every morning they're living a normal life, and it's just this like thing that happens at dark that makes them go crazy, and the reset happens. There's a line here where Tom actually has a line that I think describes it really well.
Yeah. So yeah, then we spent a bunch of page work talking about how clever Matt is at finding dive bars and interacting with people at dive bars. And Talmanes is, his rich boyfriend that puts up with it because he likes Matt.
So, come on, I want to go to a nice place where we dress up. No, we're going to the Scungy bar. I got my friends there. I'll make some money. All right. It's one last time.
Exactly.
God. Yeah. Talmanes is fancy.
I
want
love
to go to the microbrewery.
I love Talmanes. Like, I'll go to the dive bar, but I will be complaining the entire time energy. Yeah, he's definitely a microbrewery person. As a microbrewery person, I can tell you Talmanes is a microbrewery person.
Thanks, Fitzpant.
Yeah, exactly. I'll go there, but they better have Deschutes. If they don't at least have Fat Tire on tap, we're leaving.
A couple more statements about the clothing being torn and patched.
And then, yeah, Matt rolls up to a dice game and is like, let me do absolutely ridiculous dicery because clearly I'm just a tech bro that likes to spend money for some reason.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so he bets gold against silver, which is always ridiculous. And
then they start accumulating his gold because he wants his luck to have him lose, which makes Talmanes freak out for a bit. But Matt wants to lose, and pretty soon they have gold to then bet against his gold, and then he can escalate the bets faster.
Right. Which, I mean, at this point, that does make sense for his powers to get to this point where he can control his luck a little bit, right? He's stated a few times, I figured out how to lose when I need to, right? Yes. He's figured out that, sometimes winning in life means losing at gambling.
Right. We saw that with Tuon at the Hell. He very specifically was like, that was a loss that I wanted so badly that it happened.
And so now he's, kind of has conscious control over that, and he's using it here.
Right. And Tomatis gets over it. Like, after a while, he's like, whatever, you can lose your money as long as you keep buying me drinks. It's fine. I don't care. Which I'm just like, again, this boyfriend is so tolerant.
As long as you're not risking my pay or our mortgage, right? Yeah.
Exactly. Like, it's yours. It's your money. As long as you're in your budget, I don't care, honey.
And he's, inverting it. And he has to win a few tosses, just like he used to so that when he's losing, it's not suspicious. Just like when he's winning, he has to lose a few tosses. Right.
And then it becomes a whole spectacle, right? People are rushing to the inn. They're getting their friends. It's becoming like a giant circus in this common room. And the mayor comes by and is like, I don't like the look of this. This is becoming a problem.
And I love how, like, it's this giant spectacle where everyone's trying to get Matt out and leave the town, and there's all this resistance, and he basically seduces the whole town in order to keep him there after dark. Meanwhile, the Aes Sedai have the same amount of stubbornness from, no, we're not getting out of our bath.
It's amazing. Truly the power of the bath for an Aes Sedai.
Just like, no, you can't get us out of the bath. But like, you may be murdered. No, we're good.
We'll be murdered in your bath. We're fine.
Yeah, we're fine.
This is, what country are we in? Are we in Altara still? Or are we in Temirran?
Oh God, I have no idea.
I think we're in Temirran. I was about to say Altaran Psycho, because getting murdered in the bathing chamber. But if it's not a country that starts with an A, then the joke doesn't work. But I think we're into Mirande now, because that was the whole thing with the battle to get through the mountains.
Right. And they're very quickly going to run into Varen, so it doesn't matter where they are, because they're going to get teleported to where they need to be.
Right. I just needed the alliteration for the joke.
Well, then use it and move on. If it's wrong, it's wrong.
Pretend it's Altaran Psycho. There we go. I've never even seen that movie. I just know its like position in society, in our cultural language.
So yeah, he's bending the rules by getting them all excited about the money they're going to win. And when he finally goes like, hey, one last toss, and like, well, you got nothing left. He's like, I've got all the gold, the chest. I've got the chest of gold, which does kind of go outside the budget, right?
Right. But it's more than the amount of money that they've won from him. And that's how he's able to say, well, now you need to collect me up enough foodstuffs to make up the difference. And they're like, we can totally do that in 20 minutes. And Baraldon is, the dad of the group
skeptical.
Being like, you absolutely cannot clean your room and do your homework in 20 minutes and be on time for school. Like, that's not going to happen. But all the kids insist. I mean, all of the adult villagers who know what's going to happen insist, and greed wins the day.
Mm-hmm. And Baraldon does the whole I won't have you cheating us, and does the kind of clever thing of saying, I'm going to roll the dice as though I'm you, because that way you're not touching the dice. And he grabbed the dice that had a losing toss, so if they were weighted losing dice, they would have another losing toss.
Right, yeah. And he like rolls them a few times and keeps getting the same losing toss. He's like, yeah, this is great.
Yeah, these are weighted for sure. I'm totally going to fuck you. All right?
Right, yeah. And I mean, his logic is good, right? I mean, he's doing a very like protective thing for his town, being like, no, I'm going to prevent the charlatan from doing his thing and hurting my people. Like, it makes sense.
Because Matt is a cheater, right? Like, that's the whole thing. Matt's always like, it's just my luck. But it's like, you're acting like a cheater because you know what the outcome of the dice are going to be. And so you are escalating the bet until you can win it easily, right? And that's the MO of a cheater. And of course, he's being called out by it, but he's cheating with the pattern itself. He's cheating reality, so there's no way for anyone to catch him.
Right, and like we've got Brandon Sanderson trying to make his, complex morality a little bit more overt here, being like, oh, Matt's starting to feel guilty. And I'm like, I don't know if I buy that, because he is the Loki Odin. I mean, he's Odin, and Odin doesn't really give a fuck about your morality.
But Matt pays for the food, right? He thinks about, at the very end, he goes back and gives them enough money to cover the cost of the food, which is all he wanted to do in the first place, was buy the food off of them.
Well, exactly. And that's my point, is that Odin, Loki, the trickster, Matt, doesn't need to feel guilty because he's following his own code. Fuck your code. He will follow his own damn code. He knows he's following his code, so I don't see why he needs to feel guilty here, except that Brandon Sanderson is like, a good little boy and needs to say that stealing is bad and cheating is bad, even if it's okay, it's still bad, Like, I don't know that Matt needs to feel guilty here. because
Where is
it's
he?
just
Where is he feeling guilty, or is he? I missed that.
well, Matt would show him and all of them. He'd show them what? That he couldn't be beaten? What did that prove? As Matt waited, the cart piled higher and higher with foodstuffs, and he began to feel a strange sense of guilt. And then he goes through essentially your argument. Like, there's no loaded dice. I'm betting fair. They're betting fair. Like, except his luck makes it different. And he's feeling guilty about his luck. And I don't know that feels true to the character. I don't think it's necessary. But whatever. It's Sanderson needed to, really put it on the page that this is morally complex at best. Which is fine. But there's a story I read a really long time ago. I can't remember who wrote it, but I think it was called The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar. I think it was a Roald Dahl story or someone else. Yeah. And it's the guy that he learns how to see through cards through a mentalist trick. And then he has this complete personality change because now he can win whatever card game he wants and it makes him all zen. And it's really trippy. I'm paraphrasing a lot, but there's something about being able to know the outcome of a gambling game that really is an interesting mental exercise sandbox to put yourself in.
Yeah, The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar and Six More is a 1997 short story collection by British author Roald Dahl. 7 stories are generally regarded as being aimed at a slightly older audience than many of Dahl's other children's novels.
Yeah, I read it obsessively for a year. It was a really trippy story. So yeah, it's just, the way Matt handles his luck and gambling is, another expression of that iteration of what happens when you know that you're going to win. How does that change your behavior and your decisions with other people? And in this case, he's using it to feed his army, which I think is super legit. Yes, please keep your army fed. These are zombies. They'll be fine. I mean, he doesn't know they're zombies, but I know they're zombies.
And so he's given one last chance. Okay, it's time to go. We're out of time. And he's like, no, make the last throw. We are staying. And the dice in his head, stop. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is, yeah. I mean, I don't think we need to necessarily talk about the dice start at the beginning of this chapter. They stop here. It's, foreshadowing him going into Hinderstap and getting, nearly killed.
Truly, this feels like a short story writing exercise that he thought was so good he was going to keep it for the final book draft. And he just sort of modularly slotted it in. Because it feels so self-contained. You could almost take this out as a standalone short story and put it in an anthology, and it would be fine.
Yeah, I feel like you could almost be like, oh yeah, remember that Hinderstap town? Yeah, those villagers came to life. You could have written it off like that and just and then had it in the final battle. But he wrote a whole 2 chapters actually, short story.
Yeah, I think because, it's part of probably how he built these books was okay, I can't write the whole book. I just have to write a scene at a time. I got to take it in bites,
Sure.
Because it's intimidating. Again, this is the first book of him writing Wheel of Time. He was quaking in his boots through the whole first book, in my opinion.
But yeah, I spent this whole chapter being like, wait, why are the Aes Sedai still in town? And then, yeah, there's
they're still bathing.
The mother that says the Outlander women aren't done bathing. She's trying to hurry them, but they won't get out of the bathtub, which I just think is so funny. I think that's a little meta commentary there of just the stubbornness of the Aes Sedai and just how many baths are in this freaking book.
Yeah, it definitely feels like a nod to the way that we make baths out to be a big deal as a fandom. It's I'll give you a bath that makes a problem in a zombie apocalypse scene. It's very fun. So as all this is going down, Matt notices Barlden shooing off a group of ragamuffins who have a piece of paper. And Matt's like, what's that all about? And we know, and we will learn in the next chapter, that it is about the posters that that Dark Friends in the area are putting out that Varen is utilizing to find her way to one of the 2.
Wait, I thought it was Varen was the one who was creating them.
No.
She was the Dark Friend.
No.
She's the Dark Friend putting it out.
Well, I thought that there's the, remember Matt's whole line, I thought you Sayadar'd it? And Varen says, no, I got this from another Dark Friend. I inserted myself into the Dark Friendery.
I don't remember that part.
Oh, there's this awful line where Matt's like, well, I just thought you sayadared it. And Varen goes, sayadared it? And it's sort of internally echolaliaing forever in my head in Michael Kramer's voice. Sayadared it.
Sayadared it. So where did the pictures come from then? Who's drawing them?
I don't think we actually know. But Varen is able to, like, as a dark friend, like, slide on in there and intercept the information, but I'm pretty sure that someone else is, and I don't know if we know who it is. It's probably like Sindane or Mogedion.
Because I swore the only reason anyone's looking for it is because she does her whole logic thing and figures out that she's in Ta'Veren trap, and it's not Rand because she was just with Rand. So it must be Matt or Perrin.
Yeah, there's that. But I feel like then she stumbles across the posters. I don't know.
She has to create them.
All I know is that there's a weird exchange that is stuck in my head on internal loop. So who's to say what that actually means?
Give me a second.
Yes, please. Because I definitely don't have the time to read through and find that scene.
Oh, no, you're right. Varen receives pictures of Matt and Perrin from a dark friend who is hunting them.
Yeah, see? I'm only crazy sometimes.
God, nice call.
Sayadared it. It's Michael Kramer. It's entirely Michael Kramer's fault for making that little bit of sound stuck in my head forever.
But no follow-up on which dark friend that is or anything like that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that we can assume that it was Moradin's orders to get the two captured going through Mogedion or Sindane and like their, networks of dark friends that they can call on, just sort of generic dark friendery.
So, yeah. Interesting.
Oh, thanks for checking on that, because I was like, I don't know if I'm right about this.
Yeah, no, you are.
Wow.
Well, that's interesting. I'd like to try and figure out who that dark friend is, but I bet there's no clues.
Maybe we can build a solid headcanon by the time we get
Sure.
to that actual scene. We've done it before. Hashtag Van and Tread. So yeah, the throw gets made, and Matt wins.
Matt wins, yep. And in that moment...
And then Barldin yells at everyone to go. He's like, Matt, you and your party leave. Everyone else, go inside. We're going to still avoid zombie time. And then Matt just takes one more minute to monologue, and that's too much. One more second, really. It's not even a whole minute.
I mean, they wouldn't have had time to get out of the village. That would have had to end many minutes before.
Yeah,
like
no. It's like they all go
yeah.
inside and wait for like 3 beats.
Mm-hmm.
And then right as someone's about to say something, boom.
Because, remember, this town it's as big as Barrelon, basically, right?
Right, yeah, a couple inns.
It's
3
not,
inns,
it's
yeah.
3 inns, they're spread out, there's lots of streets you got to sort of wind down through. It's going to take you 10, 15, maybe 20 minutes to get out of that town, at a walk. Probably more like 5 minutes at a run, but still. They were not, they did not leave soon enough, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. And then we get the great jump scare. See, Tom Honest, there was nothing to be worried about. And that's when the screaming started. It's like, okay, Brandon Sanderson, I see what you did there, and I'm not even mad about it.
No,
that is
was
actually
really
a good hook. This is fun. This is fine.
No, I love these chapters, right? These are fun. And then oh my God, the next chapter is just action packed. A Night in Hinderstap is just, it's a fun chapter of just horror, body horror, things popping out of the darkness, the weirdness of the people. It's such a well-written horror scene. I think it's one of my favorite chapters in this book for that reason.
Absolutely. Let's do it. Let's do it. Still the dice logo.
Yeah, same logo as before, because it's the same chapter. It's just stupid long, so they split it into 2. That's all. Night in Hinderstap. Burn you, Matt, Talmanas said, yanking his sword free from the gut of the twitching villager. Talmanas almost never swore. Burn you twice over and once again. Me, Matt snapped, spinning his ashendar, flashing as he nearly hamstrung 2 men in bright green vests. They fell to the packed earthen street, eyes wide with rage. They sputtered and growled. Me? I'm not the one trying to kill you, Talmanas. Blame them. Talmanas managed to pull himself into his saddle. They told us to leave. Yes, Matt said, grabbing Pip's reins and pulling the horse away from the tipsy gelding. And now they're trying to kill us. I can't rightly be blamed for their unsociable behavior. Howls, screams, and yells rose from all across the village. Some were angry, some were terrified, others were agonized. More and more men piled out of the tavern, each one grunting and yelling, each one trying his best to kill every person around him. Some of them came for Matt, Tamanis, or Matt's red arms, but many just attacked their companions, hands ripping at skin, nails tearing gouges in faces. They fought with a primal lack of skill, and only a few thought to pick up rocks, mugs, or lengths of wood as weapons. This was far more than a simple bar fight. These men were trying to kill each other. Already there were half a dozen corpses or near corpses on the street, and from what Matt could see from inside the inn, the fighting was equally brutal inside. Matt tried to dodge closer to the wagon with its load of food. Pip's clopping along beside him. His chest of gold lay still on the street. The fighting men ignored both food and coin, concentrating on one another. I think that's good.
It's so creepy. They're attacking each other as much as anyone else, but they're leaving the animals alone. They're leaving the food alone. They're leaving the money alone. They have no strategy, no self-preservation. It just, what is happening? How do you predict an enemy with those priorities and skills, or lack thereof?
Yeah, and this is... It seems almost as though it's like the vision that Rand has, where the Dark One pulls away all the goodness from them, and they're just evil. Like, it's like, but almost more animalistic, right? There's a level of not being able to think as well.
I wonder if it's kind of what the human part of the Trolloc experience is like, or like the piece of humanity that like really gets accentuated and made more by Trolloc rage. If there's a little bit of like that, like animalistic rage coming through and overriding the humanity in a way that like maybe the Dark One maybe is working from some old lab notes from Agenor, right? Just to come up with how this could work.
Well, I actually just recently watched 28 Days Later, and the rage zombies are very similar, right? It's like, but there's no infection. Just everyone turns into rage zombies all at once and attacks everybody around them. But that level of just like rage and anger and tearing into each other is exactly how the Hinderstap feel.
Yeah. Just the lack of strategy, the lack of a goal, just sheer rage is so like, you see people go there in like certain climax moments of movies, fights, right? Like, oh, and then they lose control. You see this happen with like mob violence, right? Like the mob gains a level of sentience that transcends the individual people, right? Like this rage is a thing that exists in humans. People can lose their minds. It is a thing. But yeah, if the devil turned a whole town to 11 on that would be a very different thing than anything you've ever imagined.
Yeah. It's kind of like Reavers in Firefly, you know, except they can work together enough to fly a spaceship. So I'm always wondering like what's going on exactly there.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense at all.
No. And that's similar thing with like the mob that tries to attack the Aes Sedai. If they're attacking each other, they shouldn't be enough of a coherent mob to like break down the door and get inside. They should just be attacking each other at the door. Right.
You'd think that outlasting them would make them turn on each other.
Exactly. Exactly.
There's some weird like mob herd flock animal intelligence kind of happening there, because again, I mean, this is the Dark One trying to like create maximum chaos, so like making sure that no living beings escape the village is going to be more important than killing your fellow zombies, right? Like you have to get to the living people first. That matters more than killing your fellow zombies. Once there's no more living people, then you can kill your fellow zombies, I guess. I don't know. Zombies have very strange rules. I don't like them. Horror doesn't have to make sense when magic is involved at all. Like, if you've got magic or some other mechanism that transcends normal reality, then the horror does not have to follow the rules. And this does not.
Mm-hmm. So there's an initial group of 8 that attack them, and they're able to kill that group of 8 pretty easily, because right now we're talking about 4 fighters on horses versus 8 inept people on foot.
Right, yeah, exactly. That's some level 1 odds. You're fine.
Right. You're fine. So, and then they sort of see that everyone's fighting in the inn, and so they're like, go, run. We've got to find Tom and the women. Let's go reunite our party, right? He's doing the thing that you should do in horror movies, which is let's not break up. Let's bring our party back together.
Don't assume everyone's going to get out on their own. Go looking for them.
I did notice some of them had fallen to all fours and were moving in a strange lope, right? I mean,
that line.
Like there's some real animalistic characteristics going on with these. And I do like the, like, maybe there's some Trolloc-ness going on here.
I'm really
like
warming
somehow,
to this idea that, like, this is a mental-only Trolloc transition, but the body is still entirely human. Like,
So he you know, in the beginning of the chapter, in the beginning of the last chapter, he noted what inn Tom and the women went to. Or that was the whole point of that whole, like, extended part where he was saying, oh, I know this inn, and I know that inn, and I know this inn. And it's like, it's because he's noting where everybody's going to go so he can go find them again now that the horror show has started.
Right, yeah. At the time, it seems like a silly affectation that he's like, I know everything about how all the inns work, and in any town, I know exactly where everything is because I'm so smart. Well, it's actually kind of just his military mind being like, landmark. Because you might need it later during a hasty retreat in the dark trying to reassemble the party in the middle of a sea of zombies. He just has to put his, like, little personality twist on it and be like, I'm such a cosmopolitan boy. I know where the dive bar is.
And because this town is, you know, in unnatural darkness does come, you know, it's you normally when the sun sets, you still have a fair amount of light for quite some time.
Right, yeah.
But it's been a few minutes, and it's like you're in the middle of the mountains or the trees where they block out all the light, and it gets dark almost instantly. And it feels like they're in the shadow of the Dark One.
Oh,
right?
My God. Yeah, for sure. There's this one line in that same paragraph. In that darkness, the fights looked at times to be solid single creatures, horrific monstrosities with a dozen waving limbs and 100 mouths to scream from the blackness. Like, oh my God, that is so nightmarish. It's so good. I don't normally like nightmarish things. How talented does Brandon Sanderson have to be to get me to like horror stuff? Like, wow, I tip my hat to you, sir.
It's good. The night itself seemed to be trying to smother them, to strangle them, and to spawn beasts of blackness and murder.
It's heavy.
So then, as they're basically trying to get to the other inn, Delarn gets pulled down off his horse, which is one of the Red Arms.
And his scream sounds more human than the others.
Right.
Again, horrifying. There's all these animal nightmare screams, and then you hear a regular person scream, like, oh my God. And Matt is like, absolutely not on my watch. Absolutely not. Tomanis is like, fuck it, man overboard. Matt's like, No, 2 men overboard. That's what's happening now. You come back and rescue both of us right now, Tomanis.
Go get some help. Go get help. I'm going to protect him for now.
Oh, I mean, and this is like, I'm sorry, Matt, but you don't get to deny you're a hero when your first reaction to losing a man to the zombie swarm is to turn around. You don't get to deny being a hero. You simply do not. Like, no one is shitting on Telmanis for saying, leave him. No one gives Telmanis any shit whatsoever. Ergo, to turn around as your first reaction is hero shit. I don't make the rules.
That's running into the burning building, right?
Exactly. This is a burning building if ever I have seen one. Also, he will literally run into a burning building next book, but whatever.
It would be kind of fun if Matt died in this night and was like, therefore, the immortal warrior who could fight battles repeatedly, fight battles in the last battle, and use teleportation, gateways to come back every day. And be like, Demandra being like, I've killed you so many times. And Matt being like, yep.
Yeah, I know, dude. I know. Keep trying. I'm tired of this.
That would be a cool power for Matt to have, and very Loki-like.
I mean, just being unkillable. Like, you can kill him, but he won't stay dead.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then you could have him die in the last battle, and it would be finally a last death, right? Because the Dark One won't be.
Oh my God, yes, Lichen. You cannot kill me in any way that matters. Which, for anyone who doesn't know, there's a great meme about mushrooms that's about you cannot kill a mushroom in any way that matters. It's great.
Well, because the mycelium is like microscopic, right?
Yeah, and also in the scenario, a gun is the weapon of choice, so it's really useless. Yeah. But it's a really funny meme. It's so good. Everyone who knows. Tell me the name of God, you son of a bitch. Anyway.
So he's fighting in the dark, and there's this line here. It reminded him briefly of another night killing Shadow Spawn in the dark. Save these figures he fought didn't have the grace of a Murdral. What is he referencing there?
He's referencing that time that him and Melindra were fighting in Commando when there was an attack as Rand, Moraine et al. And all the Aiel were coming back to Kyrian chasing the Shadow.
This is book 4 or 5?
Yeah. I forget which book. It must have been 5 because it's after all the amazing events of book 4. So yeah, it had to have been book 5. But yeah, there's that fight where Matt and Melindra were clearly like mid-fucking and the attack started and they're out there. Matt like threw on his pants and Melindra is just fully naked. And I think we see them like at the edge of Rand's POV. We aren't really with them for the fight, but they are there doing all kinds of fighty things. So that's what I assumed he was talking about. I mean, yes, Lilith, that does make a lot of sense. One should contain the Wang before fighting.
Anything, I mean, in the same way that you don't want to wear loose clothing when you're in a kitchen, you don't want loose skin flying around when sharp knives are like, it's just, no.
Yeah. That's just practical. Yeah. You keep yourself contained and orderly.
He instantly recognized a sword form. Rat gnawing the grain. No idea what that would look like.
What the fuck does that even mean?
What does that mean?
What?
Come on.
What?
Really?
No. Parting the silk
That's
was
not a
right
sword
there.
form. Yeah.
Or whatever.
Yeah. So in the dark, he can recognize his buddy because his buddy's the only other one who's fighting with any sort of sword form or grace or humanity. And so
any sense of self-preservation, right? He's making moves that are designed to protect him.
Right. So that's how he's able to fight off these other, strike without worrying he's going to attack his friend in the darkness. Because they're fighting in the dark, right?
I have always amazed in any kind of like high volume, lots of people combat situation that people can tell each other apart, especially like medieval battles. Again, I'm talking movies and stuff, but like you're all rolling around in the mud. How can you tell each other apart?
I had the same problem when I played group sports. You know how many times when I was playing soccer, I kicked the ball to the wrong side? Because in the quick second that you're supposed to kick the ball, I couldn't differentiate who was on my side and who was on the other side. I had the problem all the time.
Yeah, so I can't imagine how people do it when your lives are on the line. Like, oh my God. I mean, first of all, I'm impressed you were able to kick the ball to anyone at all. I am impressed.
Well, I was somewhat athletic. I wasn't hopelessly unathletic back in the day. I was a swimmer.
I have never been able to consistently kick a ball where I wanted to go. Never in my life.
There was a lot of pressure on me as being male to do the sports. So I did the sports for a while.
My brother is worse at kicking balls than I am. But then again, like my dad and my mom are both not very athletic. So we were just like, you know what? It's fine. If you want to be a computer nerd, that's cool. That's totally fine.
They figured out very quickly throwing the ball was never going to happen, right? There was no basketball, baseball, football, any of those where you're actually throwing the ball. Those are just a giant no-no. So I got put in soccer and swimming pretty quickly.
So your foot-eye coordination was pretty good. Even if your hand-eye coordination was less so.
Yeah. I'd say more like they put me on defense and said just kick it as hard as you fucking can to get it out and clear it. And that was good enough. I didn't really aim for anything. I just kicked it hard.
That's good. You'd vent your spleen a little bit
Yeah.
on the ball.
Yeah.
Soccer balls are good for kicking. If you can get a good kick on a soccer ball, it feels very satisfying. But that's a big if in my case.
Yeah, trying to get the right part of your foot and not having your toe jam up into your foot is, much less have the ball go where you want it to go.
So much going on there. All that to say, like, I've done martial arts, but I would die instantly in Hinderstap. I would know how to use my staff very smoothly, and I would immediately die.
I'd just be running.
Yeah, no, exactly. I would be like throw chair and hightail it out of there. I don't think I would make it.
My best skills are at like capture the flag and like dipping and dodging and running around. Of course, when I was a kid. Now my knees wouldn't tolerate it. I'd just go down hard.
For sure.
I'd like dip, dodge. Oh God! Ow! Oh, okay, you got me.
Yeah, right. So yeah, Matt is down. He's fighting. He's saving Delarn. He's not going to be able to save himself. Tom to the rescue. Cool. Now we don't have to go pick up Tom at his inn. Tom has joined the party on his own power. And here is the proof that Tom is part of Matt's plot armor. And that is why he had to be convinced to come on this little trip and to stay relevant.
Well, it's all based on Moraine's prophecy, right? Like, because Matt and Tom are going to come for her. And they have to survive until they come for her. They've got prophecy protection right there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And Talmanis also comes back, to Talmanis' credit. Like, Talmanis wheels around with the others and, like, comes back. So there's a two-pronged attack to save Matt and Delarn. It's great.
Right, because Tom's coming from the other inn where he was by himself. He's been by himself this whole time. So, like, again, Tom being badass, everybody else can barely survive in a group. Tom by himself comes to the rescue of another group of people.
Well, probably because as soon as the barkeeper was like, look, buddy, you really gotta go. Like, I'm not even kidding. You have to go. Tom was like, you know what? I totally understand. Here's a great tip. Thank you so much. You know, like, he was out of there.
Yeah, he was probably on the street out of there.
Mm-hmm. He was on his horse when the screaming started.
Right.
He was wondering if he
Right.
should go pick up Matt or if he should just head out. And then the screaming started. And he was like, no, I got to go get Matt. And took off towards Matt.
Yep.
I just had the funny note that Matt has trained his horse to obey battle commands, even though he's had this horse for what, like 7 months? Like, is it that fast to train a horse to do battle commands? Really? Like, I feel like he's had this horse for like literally half the series. Like, I didn't know you could train horses that fast, but I don't know anything about horses.
I wouldn't be able to tell you.
Anyhow.
That's he can juggle and learn to juggle in 2 weeks, 7 balls. So it's fine.
You know what? Sure. Right. His horse is a prodigy.
Yeah.
That totally makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's the accelerated learning, right?
That's
the one power is flowing through everybody. It makes them faster at learning things. It's how the world works. It's a subtle magic, but it's.
So Delarn is kind of singing Jack of the Shadows as he, seems to be slipping towards death. And Matt's like, well, let's go to the Aes Sedai and then we can get him healed. And that would be great. So they go to the Aes Sedai's inn, and the Aes Sedai are clearly throwing fireballs on the inside. That's good. So they go around the back because the zombies are dumb and haven't considered that there's a back door to the building, and they're just sort of piled up at the front. And they go around back, and then Matt and Talmanis leave the rest of the party outside and head in to get the Aes Sedai.
And he's like, oh yeah, I got stabbed by my own sword, basically. Like, how did you get stabbed? Yeah, they got my own sword away from me and I got stabbed.
Right, yeah. They'll use weapons if you use them first, but they will not innovate weapons on their own.
Well, they'll pick up rocks, and so they have planks and rocks and stones and stuff like that. So they just use but they probably see this. Yeah, right. Exactly.
And then Delarn does thank Matt for coming back for him, which is nice. He's kind of starting to fade out and have the singing and stuff. But then he does say, thank you for coming back for me. And I do like that. Like, Matt, for all of his ability to write off 7,000 deaths as an acceptable loss, like, he does also really care about the people that he spent lots of page time with. And is like, nah, you've got some plot armor too, buddy. It's okay.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think he also senses that something dark one is going on. Like, you don't want to die by that. Like, that's just not a good way to die, because, I think he senses that, like, these people knew something was going to happen.
When he senses that dying here is not normal
is not
dying, this would be a different kind of dying. He doesn't know what kind of dying, but it's not the usual kind.
Getting caught in a bad loop, basically.
Yeah.
But yeah, he doesn't know that. He doesn't know why, but yeah,
he's like, no,
he's no dummy.
I can let you die on a regular battlefield. I can't let you die on this battlefield, not this one.
And then we get the coming around the hallway and, shooting at your friend and missing and being like, glad I missed that shot. Like, this is such a trope that they come around the corner of the hallway and get a fireball thrown at them, right? Like, I feel like I've seen this so many times in the movies. Yeah.
Even just the walking through the building with like there's no soundtrack except the crackle of the fire and the wet squishing of a man just like pounding on another's broken skull, right? Like, I feel like that's such, like, this whole scene is just a series of tropes I've seen in movies creeping through the house, waiting for the jump scare, and then the jump scare is your friend almost attacking you. Like, so classic.
It's me. Okay, come out. I won't shoot. Are you sure? Yeah, okay. And then you get the joke about, oh, remember that time you almost shot me? Wow, I didn't know it was you. You know, like, yeah.
Right. And the Aes Sedai are being the most Aes Sedai they can possibly be. Oh, we can't leave all these poor people. We have to do something. And Matt's like, can you see the zombie apocalypse neon sign flashing over this entire set piece?
I would have loved to seen some sort of logic of like, hey, I bet you didn't have to wait to use the one power because they're not human anymore.
Oh, that would have been a good line. I bet. Ooh, that would have been. Well, it's kind of how you interpret the O's, though. So as long as you think they're human, then you can't attack. But
right,
that would have been an interesting thing to get. Like, you probably saw their eyes change and felt your oaths relaxed, didn't you? Or something. That would have been cool. Yeah. Maybe all their eyes like turned black, like in The Witcher, and like that just is like automatic shadow spawn signal, and like you're allowed to go for it.
He does see something like in their eyes, right? Something that's like madness or
animal rage.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No, yeah, that would be interesting if, like, surely the Aes Sedai's shadow spawn spidey senses would have been like suddenly tingling, like as of the moment that the screaming started, right? Like, you'd think, especially if it's a Trolloc-y kind of bleed over, then you'd think that it would have given their Aes Sedai spidey senses a good tingle.
Maybe, but it's just a bubble of evil, so who knows?
Yeah, it's true. Bubbles of evil don't follow all the rules. No rules.
No rules. That's the whole point of bubbles of evil. Is just like there's
pure anarchy.
Okay, small comment. Loved Wheel of Time, season 3, episode 1.
We'll get to it later. we don't have time to unpack all that.
No, we don't. But okay. But really, they are continuing to get better every season. The show's better than it was. Jesus Christ. Sorry. The Harvey, my dog, is currently forcing his way into the studio and under my feet and slamming the door into the back of my chair and just being an absolute. And then he just set his snout on my foot.
No,
that's hanging in the air. He's just being very
sweet.
cute. He's being very cute, but he's also been a demon today. Oh my God. He is such a teenager right now. He is so sweet one minute and then an absolute terror the next.
Do we want to do the book?
Yeah. So we're with the Aes Sedai in the inn. They're throwing fireballs. And basically Matt's like, you're making a ruckus and it's drawing more and more people. You're going to have to kill them all to stop them. Right. So let's get out of here before you have to kill the whole town in order to keep yourself safe.
Right. Like maybe stop and just run. Like you got to know when to hold. Right.
And so they bring two of the residents out with them, right, as samples.
No, it's because they're children. Like, we've got to help them. We've got to save them. The Aes Sedai are unwilling, Jolene specifically, is unwilling to leave these bath attendant children to the mob, even though they are clearly of the mob, right? Like, that's the thing, is this is not a mob seeking the people in the building. This is everyone who's under the curse all going crazy at once.
Right.
So, like, they are no more of a danger than anyone else, or they are no less of a danger than anyone else in the mob. But Jolene insists on bringing them as a burden, and they just kind of struggle inhumanly strongly for the entire time that they're there until they vanish when the curse loops back around in the morning. It's silly. It keeps the warders from being able to help defend the group. It's a danger to the group. If any of those either of those girls had gotten out, they could have killed more people. Like, Jolene is putting the party in danger.
No, but they have no idea what's going on. It could be a contagion, right? You need to know what's going on with these people.
It's not Jolene's logic.
Right. I know. But I do think it's interesting that they don't go back to the Band of the Red Hand. Matt doesn't say it, but I wonder if that's like, what if this is something that's catching? We don't want to go back to the band and infect the whole band.
I think it was just that they didn't want to ride all the way around the town in the dark.
Well, that too. But come on, give me.
No.
Damn it.
I like the idea, but none of them think in those terms, and so
No,
I don't
they
think
don't.
That's all what's going on. It would have been a good contingency, though. Like, coming from a place of germ theory, which ostensibly this world has, but it's only sort of specialized medical knowledge. Like, that would make sense. Also, they have magic, which doesn't follow germ theory rules anyhow. Delarn gets healed. That's good.
Yep, that's good. There are thumps and shouts followed by the doors opening. So yeah, I'm wondering, they're all working together to get in through these doors, and that seems odd to me. It seems like they should turn on each other.
Zombies have the ability to just turn into a mob that can crush a door. It's known from movie logic. Remember, Sanderson writes movie logic.
Okay, that's right.
It's something I find frustrating in a lot of movies. Like, I get that the weight of a crowd crush is a lot of weight and can break things, but it seems like it happens in very convenient ways in every movie I've ever seen where that was a device that zombies use. It just, I don't know, the physics don't feel right to me.
No, because when we see it happen to real people in actual theaters, the crush kills everybody because, like, you can't get out of the door.
Right, the doors don't just pop off their hinges because lots of people are pushing against them. People die because the doors won't give. Like, that's, yeah, so. But Sanderson writes with movie logic. So if enough people push on the door pops off its hinges, everyone gets in, ta-da. And yeah, Talmanes continues to push the button of, like, you had to stay for one more toss. And Matt's like, I'm pretty sure this wasn't me. Seems a little like an overreaction for the whole town, given that I was in one part of the town at the time.
Right. And it happened everywhere all at the same time. There's also the weirdness where, like, with the healing, when he's like, that's almost as bad as dying. And I just,
that does not feel right at all.
It doesn't feel right to me. It's just like, no, Matt, you've been healed a couple of times. Like, I feel like you'd be like, oh, I would hate to be healed, but it's better than dying,
yeah,
right? Like,
that's
that to
what
me
he was saying in, like, book 6. Like, it's so like, oh, I don't know. Like, what are you, 2-on? Like, that's a 2-on attitude. Like, no, that's not you, Matt.
Like, I get where you don't want to be, and that's why he has the medallion, but, like, they would take the medallion off of him to heal him. I think they do at one point, right? Like,
he takes it off himself when Moraine wants to heal him. Like, he's totally fine with not dying. Like, that attitude is it's so early, Matt. It's so impractical. It makes no sense with the arc that he's gone through and the journey he's gone through. And no.
And then I like this quote from Tom to describe what's going on with the zombies. It's as if the darkness itself intoxicates them, as if the light itself has forsaken them, leaving them only to the shadow.
Yeah, imbalance, right? It's pulling too hard into darkness because, like, someone, Rand, is kind of falling down that path.
And there is a timestamp for when this began, right?
Yes.
The time seems to sync up with when Rand was fighting the Shan Chan in the forest at the end of Path of Daggers.
I was wondering about that.
So I'm trying to see, like, maybe that in terms of, like, is him losing that battle and going nuts and using the power on his own team, was that sort of the beginning of this sort of problem that happened with the town, that corruption kind of came through? You know, I'm just trying to, I was trying to look for a Balefire moment or something like that, where, like, he used Balefire and that caused this to pop up on the same day. But
is that the battle where he thinks I've lost for the first time?
Yeah.
I mean, I could see there being some kind of, like, the veil gets noticeably thinner and the dark one gets, like, a whole nother finger hold on the pattern and an upgraded ability to affect the scale of the world, and, like, snags on Hinderstap as, like, the expression of that.
Because he's trying to drive Rand to despair, and that's one of the first moments when it really feels like he's given in to despair.
Exactly.
So, yeah, and Hinderstap popping up at about that time.
Yeah, but how Hinderstap ties to helping Rand choose to destroy the world, I can't quite see that. It doesn't seem connected in any way. But maybe that's part of the deal, is the Dark One can fuck up one town, but he doesn't get to choose what town. or something like that, you know? Like,
It's kind of like if you're making popcorn, you don't choose what kernels pop. You're just heating it up. And I feel like the Dark One's just getting closer. He's providing like an evil heat to the pattern that's causing these bubbles and these dark, he's not in control of the bubbles of evil. He's not in control of what happens. He's not in control of what's happening to Hinderstap. He's just boiling the pattern.
Right. Oh, I like that. The Dark One can't control the kernels them individually, but he can turn up the heat on the burner collectively. Mm-hmm. I like that.
Yeah, and then the seal is sort of like an insulator between the
right, yeah,
the burner and the dark. The burner is the Dark One, and the pattern that's the pot.
So the seal is cast iron. That's what I'm hearing.
Well, no, it's more an insulator. Cast iron is not an insulator.
Well, it depends on how thick it is.
Jesus.
I mean, what are we insulating for? Like actual...
It's a ceramic.
Okay, all right.
Gwendiar is clearly a ceramic. Come on.
No, that's fair. That is fair. That's true. It is obviously ceramic. So yeah, we do a time jump a little bit forward, a couple of hours to get to dawn, basically. And we've got Matt thinking about things and talking about it with Tom.
Tom pretending he doesn't have a broken arm as though those don't hurt. And you can just shrug them off until he gets healed.
Yeah.
And then he doesn't have one, so it's fine. I don't even know why we mentioned it.
Just to reiterate that Tom is a badass, I guess.
Mm-hmm. I guess so, yeah. But it's just, it's everybody's getting healed, right? This is the short rest in the D&D game. They go out and have a little, everyone gets a little bit of healing. Everyone sort of lays down, if not sleeps for a bit, and refills their spell slots.
Right. And Matt does wonder at this point if he did somehow trigger the thing, just because none of the things make sense. So that is a worthy thing to consider, but that doesn't feel right to him. And we know that it's not his fault.
And he says, what else it could have been? Dark One's own work, and you know it. And Tom's like, well, yeah, but it doesn't mean it was pointed at you. Right. Yeah, that's the thing, is Matt kind of does a little like recap of all of the things in his life and is like, why me? Everything's pointed at me. And Tom's like, I don't know, dude. I think sometimes shit just happens and you happened to be there. Like, this one doesn't feel Matt-shaped at all. And then he sort of says, I wish they'd go after Rand. And he's like, do you mean that really? And he's like, no, but I wish I meant it. Which is, again, something Matt would think but never say. And it doesn't even feel right at this point in his arc. It feels like a book 2 thought. Yeah. And then you get this line, lies never make things easier in the long run, unless they're to exactly the right person, usually a woman, at exactly the right time. I thought you would like that quote. I just would like to slap him. It's so that's Tom. Like, I get what he's saying, right? Like, because the line after that is, when you tell them lies to yourself, you just bring more trouble. Like, he's got some good wisdom here, but like, you should bring deceit to romantic relationships and nothing else is not my jam. I think you could just leave out the usually a woman paraphrasing there, right? Like, the whole thing would be fine, unless they're to exactly the right person at exactly the right time. I think that could apply to all sorts of situations, right? Like spying, like all that kind of thing, right? But when you throw in the usually a woman thing, you're like, so now you're just talking about like seducing women and like lying about it, like and getting away with stuff in intrigue, like with your Yeah, because, exactly. Like, there's so many situations in which, like, I mean, you need to be able to deploy deceit strategically. Like, that is a thing. That is part of the human experience. But, like, that's just part of how you get chicks is, like, so devalues all of the other nuance there. It just devalues all the nuance. And so they're sort of sitting around and they're debating, like, what the fuck happened, right? Like, they seemed to know this was going to happen, but how could they know this was going to happen? Because then they'd all be dead, because you don't come back from death, right? Which is exactly what happened. Right, yeah. Like, the only way this works is if they all got resurrected, which doesn't make sense. Mm-hmm. Spoilers, yeah. And so then they get the paper of Matt. Tom got one of those drawings of Matt, so they kind of look at that and go, oh, that's not good. I'm going to have to go looking for whoever sent me this paper or whoever's putting out these papers.
Yeah. It's at least, the beginning of a path out of the mountains.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We're sort of no longer running away from Abu Dar and Pink Ribbons and Tuon. We are now running to whatever plot Matt is going to do next, right? This is ever since he got sent to basically to go pick up Elaine.
Oh my God.
Right? That was
so
the last
long.
time that is finally done. Right? That's now he gets to go do something on his own, which is, take out the golem, rescue Moraine. Like he's going on his own series of quests now.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. He just had a little bit of a break between the two plots. And yeah, this is him picking up the thread after that break. After this break.
After these messages, we will be right back. Oh, the 80s are burned into my brain, 80s commercials. And then so as dawn, they're sitting there talking, debating what the fuck happened. Dawn breaks. The girls vanish from their blankets because they're reset in the timeline back into their, tucked into their beds. Would their clothes disappear? That's a good question, right? Because
yeah, only their bonds are left on the ground, as I recall.
Right. So this is a question, right? So the clothes keep getting tears and rips in them, but somehow if you stay up all night drinking at the bar, you wake up tucked in your pajamas, right? So somehow the clothes also have to reset, but they're not resetting. They're just getting torn up. They're somehow appearing on you. There's a lot of disappearing and reappearing happening of stuff.
This is part of how you can tell that a cishet man wrote these books, because he didn't think about the clothing practicalities. It's because we need some consistency on the textiles over here.
Right. Are they being reset with the timeline or not? Because it feels like you're trying to eat your clothing and wear it too.
Yeah. Is it because the clothing is sacred, like your underwear? That was mean. But what?
I just got the Mormon joke.
But yeah, it's I would have preferred to have the bonds vanish as well. That would have been even creepier if the girls and their clothes and the strips that had been. Oh, maybe it's because the bonds were cut from Jillian's dress. That's why the bonds stayed behind.
Yeah.
Because they weren't part of the bonds weren't part of the curse. But their clothes were part of the curse. Their clothes came from the village. Okay. That much at least makes sense. But still, the whole... Yeah, it's people are waking up in their beds with whole bodies but damaged clothes.
Right.
Or are the clothes showing up in the closet with damage in them?
Or are they going around to where they disappeared, picking up bundles of clothing, Obi-Wan Kenobi style?
Right, yeah. Because, and we know that the property damage doesn't get reset because they're working on fixing things.
Right. And the clothing has to get stitched up, so the holes are in it.
Right. But yeah, I guess they probably do get reset to being in their night clothes. I would imagine they would get reset to being in their night clothes.
Right.
Whatever they sleep in, and then
then what happened to the clothes they're wearing out at the bar?
I like the idea that they're just back in the closet but with damage.
With damage.
I just that gives me the right feeling of unease.
Yeah.
So
okay. Yeah.
I'm gonna go with that.
And that seems to match what he said, where we'd find holes in our clothing, and it's where would you would find holes in your clothing if it was just in the dresser or in the closet, and you just why is there a hole in this shirt? I don't remember getting stabbed through the chest. Right,
exactly. But you wouldn't wandering around in the street finding your clothes where you died last night would just be a whole other topic of conversation,
Right. So yeah, no, I think we have to headcanon that the clothes are appearing in the closet with holes in them.
That is so creepy. Imagine the opening sequence of some kind of X-Files type show with just the closet's empty and then you turn around and the closet's full, but all the clothes have damage that makes no sense. It's so disturbing. All right. So yeah, everyone except for Matt is oh my God, where'd the prisoners go? We got to look for them. And Matt's nah, we just got to go back to the town. It doesn't matter where the prisoners went. The town is where the meaningful answers happen. And like, also we know that logically the girls are in the town. So either way.
So as they're riding in, they see goats being herded, which is weird because they like just left. How are these people getting out of bed and herding goats already? It's not like they could get up before dawn.
Maybe the kid was sleeping with the goats. And that's where
he wakes up every day outside.
He just was taking a brief nap, in the pre-dawn, because that's what happens when you stay up all night with your goats. Yeah, little shepherd's lean-to out in the field. Yeah.
Wakes up in a tent every day.
Yeah, every day, just hanging out with the goats.
Doesn't matter where no matter where he sets it up, the tent ends up with the goats.
I'm assuming that the goats are the tent's probably not moving, right? And the goats are just like, I guess we're here now. This is weird.
What's the significance of the goats? I need to know.
Is this a Severance?
Sorry, I've been watching too much Severance.
I was going to say, is that a Severance reference? Because I, too, need to know what the fuck is happening with the goats. Bring back Gwendolyn Christie and explain the goats to me. We will not be explaining Severance. This is not what this podcast is about. If you know, you know. If you don't, it's fine. Watch it or don't.
You should absolutely just put that at the end of the episode and be like, Severance spoilers. If you don't want to hear them, please turn off the podcast now. We are going to get into Severance, and we are not adding any context.
No context Severance. That would make no sense.
Actually, that's the only way Severance makes
true.
sense is
That's
without
true.
context, because
true.
it is, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They're like, what if another completely random thing? Anyway.
Okay, we're heading back into the Hinderstap.
Okay. Heading back into Hinderstap.
They're sort of still working on theories. It's ghosts and spirits, and Tom's like, why do ghosts and spirits need to repair shit, right? Like, they wouldn't need to live there.
Yeah, like that seems rather mundane for supernatural beings.
And then they notice that, like, there's a splash of blood from the one guy who was wounded, but there's no blood from any of the villagers that were killed, because they basically soaked the rocks in blood, right, from all of these people. And there was none left on them.
But all the blood had to go back into them for the morning when they all got put back together. All their blood went back where it started.
Exactly. So Barldin walks out and goes, yep, the blood vanishes. And Matt's like, aren't you dead?
Right? He's like, I killed you. I saw you dead. Like, this is... No, he's like, I killed the cook. He saw you... Yeah, anyway. And Barldin's like, please stop talking. We really don't want to hear those kinds of details.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so he says here it started several months back, and then later it says it was a normal day early this year, just before the Feast of Abram. And sort of when I look up when the Feast of Abram was, it was the end of the Path of Daggers.
Wow. End of Path of Daggers. So what's happening in all the major plots? Is there anything other than Rand going on at that point?
I mean, Egwene is definitely doing some stuff. But I feel like it's... hold on.
I'm just wondering if there's anyone other than Rand that can claim credit for triggering that being unleashed, or if it is just Rand's despair at going, I've lost. For the first time, I've lost.
Path of Daggers... Fog of War, Gathering Crowds, Answering the Summons. Elaine's blowing up the gateway.
Yeah. That has a very localized effect. We've already accounted for that.
Egwene is meeting with the Borderlanders on the ice.
Yeah. No, that doesn't feel relevant either. Hey, the astronauts people that were stuck in space are back on Earth. They made it.
That's exciting.
They're back down after 9 months more space time than they wanted. So congratulations to them.
Yeah, sorry, there's nothing else going on in that book that I think is significant pattern-wise to...
Okay, so it is Rand's escalating despair making the Dark One able to turn the heat up a little harder.
Sure, or just a bubble of evil that happened to land here at this point, in that point in time.
We've never seen a bubble of evil that lasts indefinitely. They always have an ending, and this one doesn't end.
But this bubble of evil is a time loop, which means it just keeps resetting itself, right?
But that is part of the bubble ish, right? Like, The loop is the bubble of evil, right?
Yes, but like to loop, it has to persist.
I just don't feel like we see anywhere else in the world that loops. So
No, well, this is. I mean, no, not at all. This is unique for sure. I don't, and like that. But it's the pattern falling apart, right? Think of it less as these bubbles of evil and more of the pattern falling apart. That's how you have parts of the tower moving around. You have dead walking. These things are coming back to life, and this place just got caught in this one loop that persists.
yeah, no, the turbulent flow of the pattern unweaving does not need to be consistent from one place to the next at all.
Yeah, this is a little whirlpool. This is a little eddy pool that got caught off on the side and is just swirling and swirling and swirling, and a little town fell in it, and it's just spinning around in place forever.
Yeah. Well, until Rand puts the dark one away, and then forever gets reset, and it's all good. The heat death of the universe essentially happens. Boiling. So,
Yeah. And so they sort of talk about the nightmares.
Yeah, he gives his order of events, and Matt's like, I can fill in the gaps. He's like, please don't. Please do not fill in the gaps. We don't want it.
Mm-hmm. They couldn't remember turning in the previous evening. They remember waking safe and comfortable in their beds. So comfortable in their beds makes me think in their PJs.
Yeah, exactly. Like completely the way they started that morning.
Not like in your clothes with your shoes and boots on and stuff like that.
Yeah, and not naked and bloodied and like, no, like exactly how you expected to wake up before the loop started, obviously. Yeah, they talk about how you can't even kill yourself to get away from it. They talk about how travelers have been trapped and given assigned rooms by the pattern in the inn.
Mm-hmm. All the horror of like, yeah, you die here, you're stuck here. And we know, and it's like we know you survived because we could see the blood on the ground.
Right, because if you'd been caught, then there wouldn't have been blood. We would just have, or no, there would be blood. Because they say that there was the first time, right?
Oh, that's what I'm not sure about. Like the first time you die.
Yeah.
Does your blood disappear or is that left?
I think it's left the first time, your real death. And then after that, your looping deaths doesn't count.
I don't think so. I think they get all reset that first time. Because he's like, they go out and finish the fence, right? And they don't notice like a bunch of blood or anything. Or a body. There's no body ever. And if there's no body, there's no blood.
Yeah. Yeah. And they talk about the Aes Sedai thing too, where he's like, we don't want Aes Sedai help. Also, some of us thought it would be cool to get an Aes Sedai caught here so we could get Aes Sedai help. Like, we're not even unified on how we feel about that.
Which is very realistic for small town politics.
Yeah, for sure. Do we want the government's aid? Yes, no, maybe so. If this isn't the government, this is like witches.
And maybe that's part of the reason maybe the women's circle wanted the women to get caught, and that's why they let them take the baths longer.
Oh, yeah. The women were like, well, another woman, an Aes Sedai, like they'll figure it out. Like the men can't figure it out, but we'll do our own thing. I like that headcanon. Mm-hmm.
And so they're like, you can't pretend nothing's different. It's like, we have our rules, right? Like we try and make sure nobody else stays. We're kind of full. Like we're run out of beds.
Yeah. Starting to have a problem with like affordable housing. Like it's a whole thing.
Right. We're barely keeping up with the damage. We can't really work at night.
Right. And like their food stores and production goods have to all be suffering, right? Their local industries have to be suffering. Like they're not getting the work done they would normally get done. Like spring is happening, right? Like this is bad. It's bad for people who live off the land to be caught in this kind of loop. They can't do their normal stuff.
Do they need to eat?
Right, that's the question. Because they're eating the food every day. They're eating a different load of food every day, but they're not able to work overnight on like their animals and plants and stuff. And
but I'm just wondering, like, if you didn't eat, would you wake up the next day and know that not any hungrier because you're just reset?
I would assume not, right? Yeah, you'd only have a 1 day fast and then it would reset.
Right.
Yeah. I don't think the crops reset because the animals don't attack the animals or any other food stuff. So I think that all of that is on a steady trajectory.
Mm-hmm. You just have to worry about like accidentally breaking your tools or, crushing the crops in your, when you're fighting.
Right. Or like burning down the chicken coop. Right.
Right. So they say no fires after dark. That's one of the rules.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, they give a whole bunch of their food stores to Matt. Maybe they're going to decide to be like, well, what if we just didn't eat? Would that be a problem? Because we don't have any food anyway, so I guess we can't really starve, technically.
I mean, but I could see it, some weird dystopian horror where, like, the Dust Bowl happens or something and they can't grow any food, but they keep dying of starvation and keep resurrecting day after day after day.
Oof. That would be rough.
Where you're starving, but you can't leave because you can't get far enough away to trade with anybody. You can't grow your own food.
But you're getting hungrier every day?
And you're getting hungrier every day.
Oh, I was imagining that your hunger level would reset every day.
I do too, but like imagine the horror if it didn't.
Ooh. You wake up just long enough to starve to death every day? I hate you for putting that picture in my head. That's awful.
It's the same thing as an immortal trapped at the bottom of the ocean, right? You wake up just long enough to be crushed and suffocate to death again.
I did watch a show that had that mechanic, and it has kind of haunted me ever since. Like, that was needlessly cruel, even for feuding vampires.
They talk a little bit about selling him out, and he's like, it's not worth it because we're trapped here, so there's no point in selling you out, basically what his logic is.
Right. He's like, yeah, I'm not a good person, but I'm not so bad as to, like, fuck over everyone in the situation. Like, I'm good enough to be like, that doesn't seem practical.
Yeah, and I can't really hold you here for long enough to keep, or else you'd be part of the...
Right, and we couldn't give you back if you were part of the town. Then you would just reappear here every night, and that wouldn't do your captors any good.
So he says basically Trustair is the town that the pictures are coming from?
Trust Air.
Trustair.
Because the word trust is right in the name of the town. And then air for whatever reason. But it's just like, go to the town with trust in the name, and you'll definitely find your plot device.
That is a weird name for a town.
Yeah.
That is a weird name for a town, I gotta say. Also, you notice we didn't get any good names of the bars? I was expecting like 3 good bar names in this chapter. Nothing.
We got one good bar name. The Tipsy Gelding is
the
a bar
Tipsy
name.
Gelding, yeah.
That is the name of the dive bar. But yeah, we did not actually get names for the other 2 bars, as far as I know.
Mm-hmm. I was looking for him. Sorely disappointed. 1 star, 0 out of 10.
I'm fine with that.
Hinderstap's
anytime that you have a town and you don't name every single inn that the characters even glance at, lost opportunity. Inn names are like band names. There's an infinity of good ones, and you should take every opportunity to use them.
Not to mention, I don't think any of those Aes Sedai crossed their arms under their breasts or sniffed at Matt
yes,
once.
she did. Yeah, there's the whole scene we glossed over with Matt and Talmanes like talking about Jolene's boobs, and like we just completely memory hold that because it's stupid and bad, and we didn't even bother commenting on it. I'm pretty sure there was sniffing and arm folding in that. But we just both skipped past it because it's dumb, and we didn't need it.
I don't even remember skipping it.
Yeah, because it's that dumb. I was more than happy to just let it go by without comment. Like, we didn't need any of that. It's bad dialogue. I love this scene broadly. I hate almost all the dialogue that was written into it. And Matt learns that not only is he being looked for, also Perrin. And yeah, Varen is just hanging out in one spot waiting for him to come to her. And that's cool. It's a plot clue. We will be getting to move forward with Matt's plot. We know where we're going now.
So he takes his gold, he takes his food. Yeah, they should put up a warning or something. Hello, welcome to Hinderstap. We will murder you in the night and eat your bloody face. If you stay past sunset, try the pies. Martin Bailey makes them fresh daily.
I love that fucking line. I love Wheel Weekly News' shirts for Hinderstap. Try the pies. It's one of my favorite shirts in all of my shirt collection. Or no, I don't have I got the sticker for that because I couldn't get the shirt. I got the Dark Friends Social shirt. I'm gonna get the freaking pie shirt someday because I only have the one sticker and I need the shirt because it's just so funny.
So let me quote you, Aradia. I hate all of the dialogue in this chapter except for the one line that I have a shirt of.
Yes.
Because that's one of my favorite lines from the series.
It's just so funny because then Rob went and made the shirt with the sign with the 1950s housewife with the big grin, and it's just like it's because of what Rob did with it. I wouldn't think this was the best line ever, except that Rob yes-anded it into real merchandise, and so now it's one of the best things that's ever happened. So Thank you, Rob from Wheel Weekly News.
Yes. No, it's the fandom that makes some of these lines really good, because sometimes as they're written, they're just a little corny.
Yes, exactly. But if you get enough fandom lore built around it, now we've smoothed off the rough spots.
Just we put a funny cap on it. Just like, that's kind of ugly. Let's cover it with a funny cap.
Exactly. If you just put googly eyes on it, then it's so much better. Everything's better with googly eyes.
Murandy. So we are in Murandy.
Oh, okay, yeah, Murandy. Whatever. It's fine.
It doesn't begin with an A. Your joke doesn't work. Call back.
Yeah, there we go. Hinderstap bed and breakfast. Try the pies. We're dying to serve you. That's it. We're dying to serve you. It's so good. Try the pies.
Zombies.
I'll make sure to put a link to his website in the show notes for this one.
Definitely. Are we really going to take the wagon? We need the food, Matt said, lashing the chest to the back of the wagon. Several large wheels of white cheese and half a dozen large legs of mutton lay prominently alongside the casks of ale. The food smelled good and his stomach rumbled. I won it fair. He glanced at the villagers passing on the street. When he'd first seen them the day before, he thought the slowness of the pace was due to the lazy nature of the mountain villagers. Now it struck him that there was another reason entirely. He turned back to his work, checking the horses' harnesses. And I don't feel a bit bad taking the wagon and horses. I doubt these villagers are going to be doing much traveling in the future. Which is kind of funny because they are going to travel to the last battle.
Well, that'll be
portals.
with a gateway. So.
Yeah. But yeah, they're not going very far.
No, this is where they're going to be until the end.
So that's always fun. I feel like that's the best that like Sanderson did in terms of like writing these action sequences, right? They're just fun sequences that really kind of show you. I don't know. I feel like he does a good job with Matt's. We criticize him a lot about Matt's character, and I think it's the dialogue is so bad. But what Matt's actually doing is pretty in character, and I think that's where I tend to forgive him a little bit more on Matt.
It's good action.
Because he's, throwing himself into danger to save his allies, depending on his luck. Like, it is, some of it's just the dialogue feels so immature. And, like, the way he's thinking about the one power and the way he's thinking. It's like, again, this is where we really have to look at what Matt's doing versus what he's thinking, because his thoughts feel very juvenile. But I feel like his actions still feel like normal hero Matt.
Yeah, it is interesting how his literal actions are generally in line. It's just how he interacts with the entire verbal part of the plot, both with himself and others, where it's weird. But if he's just in his body doing stuff, then it makes sense and it's fine. But yeah, no, this is just such a spectacular action sequence and horror sequence, and there's a little bit of weird character stuff in it, but it's buried under all the good, just sword swinging good time. Like, there's not a lot of meaningful plot forwarding, This is very much like could be a standalone short story, like I was saying. But
But it's got the fun callback in the last battle.
Yeah, it's got the fun callback in the last battle, and it's just a really good showcase of Sanderson's skill at working in the world. He's not so good with the big characters, but when you just give him the fabric of the world and say, like, play with it, like, and he's good at that part. It's fun. It's very fun.
No, I will never say he's not a masterful writer, right? Like, he's just a different writer than Jordan. They write with a different style and a different level of complexity and a different number of layers. It's like the difference between like a 10-layer cake and like a just, cheesecake, right? Like,
totally.
One's
whole different.
Yeah.
You can't compare them really. We're trying to because they literally wrote the same books. We are sort of forced into a situation of comparing apples and oranges, but like they are still apples and oranges. But I had fun today. This was a good recording, a good episode. Some fat tangents that did not make it through to the final episode. I guarantee.
You. Thank you for cutting those. I appreciate that.
But yeah, this was a great time. I definitely encourage everyone to continue checking us out on social media and my support group on Thursdays and all the other podcasts that I may or may not be creating at any given time. Yes, shout out to Harvey being a very good dog. Ooh, very fun icon being produced live in chat by Lilligen. Thank you. I love that flaming sunset.
Wonderful.
That's awesome.
The dripping blood Hinderstap, always nice. Yep.
Fantastic. yeah, that's all I've really got for today.
That was a fun one. That was a lot of pages to cover, but it was one big scene, so I'm glad we did it all at once. So, see you guys next time.
Thank you for listening to the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Please rate and review us on your podcast app, and consider supporting us on Patreon for ad-free episodes. What Spoilers is a production of Fox and Raven Media. For more podcasts from Fox and Raven Media, visit our website at foxandravenmedia.com.